Hey everybody, it is question and answer Tuesday, and today I'm going to take the question that I would usually answer in the premium subscription and answer it for everybody on a video because I've been getting this question so much recently. And the question is around using faith at home practices for all ages in the church. People have been saying, hey, for years we've been using faithful families practices in our congregations with kids, but now we want to use them intergenerationally. We want to use them with families of all ages. So I love this question. I am all about intergenerational ministry. I do think that faithful families practices work well in a church setting for all ages with just a few small tweaks. So I'm going to talk about what those are, just a few ideas, and then hear from you. You can let me know what works well for you. So for each practice, or each suggestion, I'm going to give a practice that goes with it. So today I'm going to be doing practices from the Advent and Christmas book, just because Advent and Christmas is coming up, and I thought it might be helpful, but you could apply these ideas to all of them. So the first idea that I have is to help your community to connect the practices to one another. So when we say, hey, we're going to practice something at home, try and figure out, is there a way that we can connect our faith at home practice to each other? So everyone's doing something separately at home, but then they're also doing it together. So if they live alone, or if there is one other person in their house, they're connecting to the other people in the church. So one idea to showcase this is the Christmas tree blessing. So that's on page 22. And there's a short blessing for your Christmas tree. When you put it up, you say a blessing. So instead of saying like, okay, it's just for families with kids to do this, what if you printed out a bunch of Christmas tree blessings from the book? And remember, if you buy the book, you have permission to duplicate up to 5 practices for your whole congregation. You don't have to buy a book for everyone. If you want to do more than that, you do need to get everybody a copy of the book. But if you want to do just 5, you can get away with 1 copy. So you could make copies of the Christmas tree blessing for everyone and then hand them out probably soon, right before Thanksgiving, and say to folks, when you put up your tree, we would like you to say this blessing and take a picture of your Christmas tree, and we want to see everybody's Christmas tree. We're going to do a Christmas tree parade. After you say your blessing, take your picture, send it in, and then everybody is doing something separately, but also together. The second idea that I have is to, when you look at the practices in faithful families, to look at it with the eyes of your church being your church family. I've talked about this in private cohorts and speaking, but never, I don't think, said publicly that I don't love using the church family metaphor all the time. I don't think a church congregation should always be a family, but I don't want to get into all of that now. But you could just change it and talk about your church community, maybe, and say, okay, our church community, or you could say family of faith, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other, is going to do one of these activities all together. So on page 6 of the book, there is the idea of doing an acts of kindness tree, where you put different ornaments on the tree and then you pull them off and do acts of kindness. So the idea would be, instead of encouraging everybody to have their own acts of kindness tree, you would make one big one in your church and encourage everybody to take an act of kindness from the tree. And then you could also extend it further and say, hey, if you want to make your own tree at home with your own family, go ahead and do that. This is what it would look like. So you could give people kind of like a show and tell of what they could do at home with their families, no matter what family means to them. Or just do it with everybody. Okay, third idea. This is not so much an idea as just an encouragement to say explicitly that the practices are for everyone. So if you're talking about a faith at home practice, to just say explicitly in your instructions, this practice is for everyone. Whether you live alone, whether you are retired, whether you have small children in your home, whether you have a mixed family of multi-generations, it is for you. especially I would say if you're using this book or my books, because they do say faithful families, they are branded for families, but just remind people that they're for everybody, to say it explicitly, and to say that by family we mean everybody, and we are, again, a community of faith. We are bound to one another. And the idea that I had for that is the activity on page 40, and that's called The Gifts All Around Us. And the gifts all around us is the idea of taking a look at what we have all around us. I'm outside today, as you might notice, and to think about what a gift it is to breathe clean air. Maybe you hear that little cricket chirping in the background, or you hear the cars going by. To just think about these gifts that are all around us and to list them. And again, going back to the very first idea, to try and connect those to one another. So to tell everybody, hey, we're going to do this in our families or as individuals, and then compile them together and check up on it and see. The last bit of advice that I wanted to give is to think about, as you read through the activities in this or any of the Faithful Families books, is to look at it through different eyes. So as you're picking activities to showcase for your congregation, to think through and say, okay, how would this work if I were single? What modifications would I do if I were a retired couple at home? What modifications would I do if I were away at college? What modifications would I do if I had babies at home? To take yourself through that exercise and then to come up with ideas. You know your church community way better than I do. You know what modifications you need to do for your congregations. I say often that these books are recipe books. They give you a basic outline and a recipe to follow, but you are so free to add, subtract, make it your own, figure out what works well for your community. So I hope these general ideas about kind of making faith at home practice through Faithful Families accessible to your whole congregation are useful to you. I would love to hear how it goes. I would love to hear other ideas that you have used and other applications of Faithful Families in your context. Let me know. Drop a comment, send me an email. I love to see my work out in the world. So happy Advent, everybody. Take good care. Bye-bye.